Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Dan Tremblay Music. Today we are once again composing with some of my favorite Spitfire audio sample libraries. Primarily we're featuring Albion NEO for all of the string sounds. We have Spitfire percussion, we have some Albion 1 going on, and we have some solo strings going on, and also continuing with Native Instruments Noire piano library, which I am loving. So let's get to it. Okay friends, let's get into it. I got like this weird angle thing going on because the studio is a disaster right now, but anyway, we'll kind of roll with it. We'll see what happens. So I'm just gonna run through the all the different sounds that I use as usual. So we start off with Contact Instruments Noire. Just my favorite piano sound right now. So I pretty much always sketch everything out on the piano because that's just the fastest for me. And then what I did, and I talked about this in my other video, is I combined that. This is just a duplicate part where I added it at the end because I wanted a little retardando at the end. I wanted to slow it down, so I wanted to take it off the click. So that was recorded after the fact. Why didn't I punch in, you ask? I don't like to punch in. I'm not a punch in kind of a guy. I much rather just duplicate it. My system seems to be able to handle it. So that's what I do. So that was kind of the first. I guess I'll play a little bit of it for you here. So the only thing I did have to kind of fool around with, again, I talked about this, is this nasty frequency here. Found it at about 147 hertz. Ugly, nasty, boomy. So depending on how far you go with the color knob here, what do I have it at? I think I have, well, -1. There you go. So if you want a clearer sound, you would drag that to the right. Okay, and that would change the sound. Here, let's just do it. It starts to get really tinny, really soft. Okay, now the softer you go, the nicer the sound, but the harder it is to mix it. So then you got to get in there and you got to EQ it, fix it up. There's also other controls in here where you can go in, another EQ kind of within it, where I fooled around with the bass a little bit. That's pretty much it. That's all I did for that track. And then I layered that with, and I did this in my last video, with the particle engine, which I am loving. So let's listen to that. Let's go to it here. So good, rhythmic textures. So I'm using some of the same patches, I guess, from a previous video that I did. However, everything's processed a little bit differently, fooled around with the settings and all that kind of stuff. So, similar sounds, but slightly different results. So the last song that I did was a little bit more kind of mid-rangey, kind of lower sort of sound. This is more like a high kind of texture sound. Different project. Then for a little bit extra rhythm, I paired that with Evolution Steel Strings. This is a guitar sample library I've had for a long time. I find it very effective for adding kind of rhythmic textures. So let's check that out. Now on its own, it sounds like not much, but you'll find in the mix it's going to sound pretty cool. And then a whole lot of Spitfire audio Albion NEO, okay, which I'm really enjoying right now. I go through phases. I was in a Tundra phase. Now I'm kind of in the NEO phase. So let's check this out. so good. This is the cassette tape strings from the Segla textures. I don't think I tweaked a whole lot in here. I liked it exactly the way it was, so that's just to add some kind of texture underneath. And then I threw in the Neo long patch. And what I decided to do differently this time is experiment with the with the A strings and the B strings. So if I'm understanding this right, the orchestra was recorded in separate sections, playing slightly different. So when you pair the two sections together, the A and the B, you get a much kind of fuller sound. So I literally just copied and pasted the long performance I have, and then the concertinos. Copy and pasted and kept all the settings the same, but changed the patch to the B patch. That's it. That's all I did. Strings B, so strings A and strings B. So let me just play the difference. I'll play them separately so that you can hear it, and then you can hear it together. Should have started a little bit earlier or later, but anyway. Those longs are just gorgeous now. Okay, I'll play it at the same time, and then I'll bring in the B's so you can hear it. You might think, well, it's just getting louder, but it's more than that. Okay, it's more. Everyone knows when you're mixing, if you just take the duplicate sound and you copy and paste it, put it on top of each other, it's actually going to get quieter, and you're going to have phase cancellation. So the sound is going to get quieter. This just, I don't know, it's almost like it opens up like it feels a little bit wider to me, maybe a little bit more of a stereo mix. I'm not sure, but then I have the concertinos, and the same thing. I'll start with just the A's, and then I'll bring in the B's so you can hear it. Kind of goes from the A, which sounding really good, to the B's. It's just like, whoa, it kind of just puts it over the top kind of thing. Then I have Spitfire Audio Solo Cello. And then we have that layered with the Spitfire violin from the solo strings. Okay, so just the lines kind of going over top of each other. Very importantly, and I think this is a Christian Henson tip, is always make sure that whatever range your instrument has that you're using, that you're not crossing over that. So you don't want those cello notes to come into the violin range. You want the violin to sit higher. Okay, a little orchestration tip. Christian Henson. Thank you, Christian Henson. Then we have Albion 1. Wanted to throw a little bit, kind of make a little bit more of a bottom end, and that's where Albion 1 really comes in. It's got some, kind of thunder, but not too much. So we just have some Albion 1 shorts, so I can play these together. I fooled around with the ostinatum engine, and it can be very, very useful, but I just like playing it better. But anyway, if maybe you're not a piano player and you're programming these, you're just clicking on a mouse, then you can program in the ostinato in this engine, and you can get it done in the ostinatum engine. Okay, ostinato and the ostinatum. Okay, it's not easy to say that, is it? So we have the strings, short, spiccato, sorry. So I'll play those two together. So being very careful that when I'm playing those, I'm playing them at different velocities to get all those accents in there. Same thing, like I said, you go into that ostinatum engine and you can program all those accents quite easily. It can be a very, very useful tool. I just like to play it. I just find I can get it done a little bit easier, a little bit faster. And then we have just some Spitfire percussion. Just in the end, just wanted to have a little bit of snare in there, a little orchestral snare. And same thing, you know, very, very important for the ostinato string section and for the any kind of rhythmic section for the Spitfire percussion snare. Never loop. Don't loop it. You want multiple different layers. Get all those dynamic layers in there to get a more realistic performance. Okay, that's pretty much it. Rolled off a bunch of lows as usual. I did not EQ the strings at all. Except for the pizzicatos. Got a little Valhalla reverb and a little EQ on the reverb, a little ozone on the mix bus. Very, very little verb added other than my Noire piano samples. There is reverb within the Noire library itself, but I just like the Valhalla, so I turned off the reverb within the... Very important when you're mixing these, when you're working with these sample libraries, by the way. There's almost always reverb in the individual libraries. So if you have reverb there, and then you have reverb on in your aux send, all of a sudden everything's swirling around. So you gotta be really careful, especially if you're using Omnisphere, which I love. I haven't used Omnisphere in a little while, but yeah, so just be careful of too much reverb and mixing a bunch of different reverbs from within the sample libraries and also your aux sends. Something to be aware of. So just a little bit of reverb. I notched out that frequency on the piano because it was really boomy. 147 hertz, was not liking that at all. And then some heavy reverb on the cello and violin solo instruments. And I actually found, again, that frequency was still coming through a little bit. So what I did was I went to my Ozone plugin and I actually notched it out there. There you can see it, 147 hertz. Just a little notch because it was still coming through in the overall mix. And it was just this booming, nasty, awful, make you want to throw up kind of sound. So let me play the track and I'll turn off my microphone, which I forgot to do last time, and then we'll have some final thoughts. Final thoughts. Always be writing. and composing. Do things every single day if you can. Just get something done every single day, whether it's a little sketch of a song, an idea, working with a sound. Just write every single day. You're just going to find that ideas are just going to present themselves to you the more that you do it. So try to get something done every single day, and always revisit things the next day. I don't know how many times I've come across a mix and I listen to it at the end of my session. I'm like, yeah, it sounds awesome. And I sleep on it. I come back the next day. I'm like, whew, that's bad. And so just always revisit it the next day with a fresh pair of ears, and just keep doing what you're doing and trust those ears. That's it, my friends. Stay safe.